Grandpa, what are you doing? Why are you smoking here?
I'm just getting a little high, that's all.
I didn't know you were addicted to this too.
Addicted or anything. I'm just stressed and need to relax a bit.
Do you smoke a lot? Why do you look so dazed and out of it?
I've been smoking since last night.
And you said you're not addicted. I didn't know this stuff had some kind of magic power that controls anyone who touches it. It can even cost people their lives.
There's no magic to it. It's simply a reward or a way to release tension.
What do you mean, Grandpa? Can you explain it in more detail?
Drugs don't kill you instantly, but they invade your nervous system little by little, distorting your perception, twisting your personality, and clouding your judgment. From the initial pleasure to dependence, and finally to complete submission, drugs turn addicts into perfect slaves, obedient, loyal, and willing to trade everything, morality, conscience, even other people's lives, just for one more hit.
So what happens to the body when someone becomes addicted to drugs? And why can't people resist them?
First, you have to understand that addiction is a disease.
So you're actually sick.
I already told you, I'm not addicted. The proper medical term is substance use disorder. The U.S. National Institutes of Health considers addiction a chronic brain disease, characterized by compulsive seeking and use of drugs despite harmful consequences. Addiction begins in the brain. The human brain is wired with a reward mechanism. Whenever we do something pleasurable.
You mean reward like getting money?
No, the brain doesn't print money to reward itself. Instead, it releases a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Simply put, dopamine is the brain's jackpot. Just like winning the lottery, dopamine gives us every level of joy, happiness, and pleasure a human can feel. Moreover, dopamine is part of a million-year evolutionary achievement of our species. It's called the reward system. If you study well, school gives you a certificate, and your parents reward you with gifts to encourage you to keep studying. Dopamine is the brain's version of that certificate and gift.
So does the brain reward us? Or is it rewarding itself?
A dose of dopamine is released when we complete survival tasks. Eating, drinking, hunting, gathering, fighting to survive, and especially reproducing. The human reward system is programmed to seek out and remember behaviors that release dopamine and bring pleasure. It's designed to pump different amounts of dopamine depending on the importance of the achievement in the real-life survival game.
Can you explain more specifically, Grandpa?
For example, finding an apple might give you a little dopamine. Hunting a deer gives you more. Flirting successfully with a beautiful girl gives even more. Escaping a lion gives a huge amount. Completing the full process of making a baby. Jackpot. And not only does dopamine bring pleasure, it also creates motivation to repeat those behaviors. This is an incredibly smart evolutionary mechanism. If eating a sweet apple makes you happy, you'll want to do it again, so your body gets sugar, vitamins, and fiber. If hunting makes you happy, you'll keep doing it for protein and nutrients. If escaping danger teaches you a lesson about survival, your brain will remember it and keep you alert to potential dangers. If reproducing feels good, your genes will spread. This is also why junk food and sugar are so addictive. They're colorful, tasty, packed with sugar and fat. Candy and snacks trigger a massive release of dopamine, making us feel happy. Cravings are simply the desire to repeat that experience. In short, pleasure is how a healthy brain identifies and reinforces evolutionarily beneficial behaviors like eating, socializing, and sex, then rewards them. The same thing happens with drugs. When we use cannabis, opium, cocaine, or other substances, the brain also releases a lot of dopamine. The main trick of drugs is that they interfere with how neurons send, receive, and process signals through neurotransmitters. Take cannabis, for example. It contains a chemical called THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. THC has a structure very similar to anandamide, a natural substance in the brain. When you smoke weed, THC binds to the receptors that normally react to anandamide, overactivating the reward system and causing a much larger dopamine flood than normal. That's when the high hits. The problem is that whenever our biological reward system is activated by a pleasurable experience, the dopamine surge tells the brain that something important just happened and it should be remembered. So the brain encourages us to do it again and again.
But why do people still get addicted? We've all been taught that addiction is a bad thing.
It's still dopamine. When a huge amount of dopamine is released during a drug high, it creates changes in neural connections that make it easier to repeat the behavior without thinking about the consequences, forming habits that eventually lead to addiction. In other words, dopamine helps the brain ignore any guilt or worry about using drugs. It breaks down anyone's willpower and teaches the brain to chase drugs at all costs, regardless of personal health or the safety of others. Drugs create intense euphoria because they release an enormous amount of dopamine, forging a powerful link between drug use, pleasure, and all the environmental cues associated with getting high. Once the brain learns this, it becomes very hard to forget. For example, people who have been clean for decades can still feel cravings when they return to the neighborhood or house where they used to use.
But Grandpa, why do drugs cause such intense addiction that's so hard to quit, while sugar and snacks don't?
Simply put, the difference between a normal natural reward and a drug-induced reward is like the difference between someone whispering in your ear versus someone screaming into it. If a speaker is blasting music too loud, what do?
Then I'll turn the speaker down.
Exactly. The same happens in the brain. The euphoria from drugs is the result of our reward center being overstimulated. Over time, the brain of a long-term addict adapts by producing less dopamine for the same dose or becoming less sensitive to the drug. That means the dose from a year ago no longer satisfies you. Worse, addicts start feeling depressed, unmotivated, empty, and unable to feel pleasure from anything except drugs. To compensate, they move from smoking to injecting just to chase the original high. But this creates a vicious, inescapable cycle. They increase the dose, lose the feeling, increase again, lose it again. We don't easily get addicted to sugar or snacks because they only trigger a moderate, natural amount of dopamine and don't damage the sensitivity of the reward system.
So why is it so hard to quit, Grandpa?
Like I said, I'm not addicted and I've never had to quit. But from real life, we can see that getting addicted to drugs is very easy, while quitting is extremely difficult. In the brain's reward center, the basal ganglia is responsible for creating pleasure when using drugs. Meanwhile, the enlarged amygdala generates negative emotions like stress, anxiety, and discomfort that usually come after the high. These unpleasant feelings push addicts to use again. The longer and heavier the use, the more intense these negative emotions become. Eventually, addicts use drugs less for the high and more to escape the stress and discomfort. At this point, they have officially become slaves to drugs. Drug addiction doesn't discriminate by age, but it usually starts in adolescence. Adults are much less likely to fall into addiction than teenagers.
Why are young people more easily addicted to drugs?
The issue is that the ability to think, solve problems, make decisions, and exercise self-control is governed by the prefrontal cortex. Ironically, this is the last part of the brain to fully mature, making teenagers especially vulnerable to temptation and drugs. Drugs heavily affect the underdeveloped prefrontal cortex of young users, driving them to seek drugs compulsively and uncontrollably, sometimes leading to tragic consequences. Some drugs, like the opioids and heroin, also disrupt other parts of the brain, such as the brainstem, which controls vital functions like heart rate, breathing, and sleep. Opioids bind to receptors that regulate breathing, blocking the signals that tell the body to inhale and exhale. If the dose is too high, the victim overdoses, stops breathing, and dies quickly.
Drugs really are the devil. All you young people, especially kids, please stay far away from drugs. It will destroy your life. And if you're already addicted, please stop before it's too late. We still have family and loved ones who need us, just like we need them. Don't let drugs take you away from your family's embrace.
Very well, kid.
You too, Grandpa. You should stop smoking this as well. I just told everyone watching this video to stay away from drugs.
I'm only smoking this one. This is the last one, so don't worry, nephew. I'm not addicted.
I hope Grandpa is telling the truth. Thank you everyone for watching the entire video. Thank you so much. Please share and give us a like if you found this video helpful and interesting. Thank you all very much. If you enjoyed this video, please give Grandpa and me a like. Thanks a lot.